Yeah, boy, it's December 2nd, and this is episode 100. And this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer. I'm your host, Uncle Buckets. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer is the official podcast of the fantasyfootballauction.com, the internet's only website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/fantasyfootballauctioneer, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Fantasy Auction. We've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight we're going to celebrate our 100th episode by reviewing all of our leagues, talking about the playoffs, taking a look at playoff strategies, and of course, a little reminiscing about our last 100 episodes. But of course, our experts, they're always here. He destroyed me in our Dynasty League on the weekend. Slim, how are our 2015 draft picks looking? I think you said I have the 102.
Yours is better than mine. I have the 104 now, thanks to that ass whooping. But
you dropped to 250, I think, didn't you?
251.
It's huge.
Beat you by a cool 91 points.
It's huge.
Yeah, it was a big week. Unfortunately, it's in a pool where I didn't want big weeks anymore, but whatever. I mean, it's only one draft spot.
As I was following through, following it over the weekend, I thought, Slim's going to be going crazy. No, quit scoring points, drop the football, throw a pick.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. But, yeah, I know. Actually, I wasn't sure if it would make enough, if it would change anything or not. I think it probably, maybe it wouldn't have even, I don't know. But it was so much of a difference that it might have cost me the 103. But whatever. Yeah. So anyway, looked good for you though, getting the 102.
All right. Well,
you hitched your cart to the right horse at least. If you're going to trade your first, you might as well trade it for somebody else's that's going to finish worse than you.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's right. Well, I got to take a closer look at it. I've been working hard on the script, and I normally look at it a little bit more before I start working on the script, but I did too much tonight. So, anyways, I'll do something while it's rendering tonight. Anyways, we'll move on. And he's still undefeated as a girls novice hockey coach this season. Blister, congratulations on the second championship.
Thanks, man. Yeah, the little ladies are really coming along. A lot of fun. We traveled to Kenora, went 5-0 on the weekend, upped our record to 12-0, and brought home another title. So parents are excited. They want to ride this wave as long as we possibly can. Try to book into about 6, 7, 8 more tournaments if we could, and one step away from the Olympics for these young gals.
One step away. Just so you guys, I don't know, the people on the podcast can't see it, but the people on the YouTube channel can, wearing the shirt and tie for the special occasion. I'd like to thank the two of you for dressing up in your finest T-shirts.
Just worked out this one.
After all.
Comfort of our own home. I mean.
Hey, I am wearing sweatpants and slippers.
There you go. You just wrecked the whole.
No, I didn't. No, I actually just polished my shoes for tonight's episode. Okay, anyways, let's move on to the rest of the episode, guys. If you guys are ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. I listened back to the first time when I said that, and it is right away. The intro's changed a lot. Anyways, episode 100 of the Fantasy Football Auctioneer is brought to you by all three of our sponsors. FantasySportsForYou.com, the only daily fantasy football site that offers you a true 100% match on your first deposit. Use our promo code AUCTION to receive your 100% match. And by Northern Wilderness Outfitters, looking for the ultimate fly-in fishing experience in Canada's north. Visit Vic Senior and Junior at northernwilderness.net and book the ultimate fly-in fishing trip. Located just over the border from International Falls, Minnesota, and also brought to you by Gillen's Insurance Brokers. Looking for home, business, or auto insurance, head on over to gillens.on.ca. Speak to Chad or Trevor. And so if you have Northern People's Problems, Gillen's has Northern People Business Insurance. I don't know, that's their motto on the website, so I pulled her off of there. Anyways, so there, we haven't dropped those two little ads lately, so it's good. So now that we have all that business out of the way, guys, let's get the show underway. Before we get into the league results. We want to go through some of our stuff there. I just wanted to ask you guys, this all started back, I looked at the date, it was July 26th, 2012, and that's when we started 100 episodes ago. So we have over 180,000 downloads this year, and it's got to be pushing that 300,000 mark since it all began. So, Blister, I wanted to ask you first, any thoughts on episode 100 and getting to this point?
No. I kind of thought, we talked about trying to think of something special to do other than getting dressed up. But, of course, everyone's so busy, kind of forgot about it until all of a sudden, hey, it's time to pod again tonight. And I think that probably has been pretty consistent for the last few years that, are we podding tonight? What's going on? And so, we piece it together. And, it's what's kind of neat is the number of followers we have kind of picked up along the way. And, there's some pretty good people out there that we talk to quite regularly. And, most of the time it's all pretty positive. We don't get too much hate mail for bad advice, but I'm sure we've probably disappointed a few people. I think everybody does. It's hard to be perfect, otherwise we'd be winning every league all the time. But no, it's been a lot of fun. We put in a lot of time, and going forward, hopefully it'll pay off someday. Wife keeps saying, when's it going to pay the bills?
People hoping that it pays off.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's paying the podcast bills. That's not a problem.
That's right.
Everything
That's
else.
all right.
Yeah. Slim, what about you? You've had some time over the last few days to sit back and reminisce about the 100 episodes. Any thoughts?
I think it's just cool how many people you come in contact with doing something like this. I mean, there's us and our kind of closer knit group of friends that do football pools together and things like that, and we talk football and sports all the time. But we've met people and became, I guess, online friends with people from all over the place, all over the world, really doing this. And that was something I don't think that any of us really thought about. It was more or less just getting together and talking sports in the beginning, and now it's, we're talking sports with people all over the place, and unfortunately some people put value into our opinions, and hopefully we don't disappoint them like Blister said all the time. I know it happens sometimes, but it's just neat to go out there and meet all these people and just shoot the shit with everybody about sports. It's fun.
Well, I mean, and for me, I think that's a big part too. I mean, I never would have imagined that, last week we'd be getting emails from Brazil and getting tweets from Abu Dhabi and, draft recommendations from the Netherlands. I mean, it is all over the world, and it has made it kind of a small world, and I think that that's kind of neat. And I think too, maybe a little sappy, but I was doing some guidance work in front of some grade 7 and 8 classes today, and I'm like, we're in the day and age where basically anything you're passionate about, it can be a job. And I use the fantasy football as an example, but we were just 3 guys who, as a joke, kind of threw together a podcast a year and a half ago, and now all of a sudden we're on the 100th episode, and like I said, going through some of the stuff, we're just, I don't know, so much more comfortable, and things are just so much better, and it's become an important, I guess, piece of our lives, guys. I'm just so happy that but anyways, that's the type of thing. I just think it's been pretty cool that week in, week out, we kind of, we're hammering this out. We're trying to get better. We have business meetings and all that stuff, when originally it was just like, hey, we're playing the intro music walking into the auction. This will be funny. And now, a year and a half or 2.5 years later, we're still cooking. I love it. Anyways, that's my little 2 cents worth. Anything else before we get going?
Very sentimental.
I know, that's me.
Let's talk about football. Who did us right and who did us wrong?
Well, hopefully tonight, to introduce some of the segments, I'm going to do a little bit of vintage auctioneer, drop some old sound bites, that type of thing. So we'll have some of that throughout the pod. So anyways, let's recap some of our leagues. Regular season's over in most leagues, guys. And Blister, I know you're in, I don't know, maybe 17 or 18 different leagues probably. So why don't you pick a handful anyways and tell us what's going on over there?
I thought maybe, I thought we could go through some different leagues, kind of. This one, the first one we'll talk about, is kind of a good segue from what Slim was talking about, how you meet so many different people. But I thought we could just kind of go over where we are, what failed us, or what kind of got us to the finals, and kind of look back and try to recall, or some people probably could look back at earlier pods in June or our rankings back then, and see if we were on par at that point. I think we're pretty accurate with some of the guys we talked about in our draft kit and things like that, according to how the season turned out. But the first one I got up here is the Scott Fish Bowl, and you probably heard us talk about it a few times over the course of this past year. And Scott Fish Bowl is an exciting league to get invited into. It has 240 people in it in 4 different conferences with 5 divisions. I think it was in each conference, 12-person leagues. But it wasn't an auction; it was a draft, and all 3 of us managed to get into it. And it was a slow draft, and it's kind of fun. The format is they don't have any kickers, any defenses. You start 11 players, and it can be a 2-quarterback league. So basically, we had our draft, and it kind of spread out throughout the summer, kind of starting, I think it was in late June or early July. I remember I was kind of worried about it. I think I was down in Wisconsin Dells. But
Yeah, I
as it
think
sits
so.
right now, we're in week 14. I ended up in the Marvin division of the Alien Conference, and I got a bye to week 14 because I finished with the second highest point total. Only missed it by about 5 points to fan Robert Marino. He was also in one of our ESPN leagues, although I don't think he
Yeah.
took that one quite as seriously. And so him and I got a bye. Probably a good thing because I didn't have a very high point total last week. I'll let Slim talk about his team, but real quickly, what I realized on this, I might have dropped some guys from earlier on. I can't remember if I had drafted Toby Gerhardt or not, but there's a guy that we didn't. I wasn't too high on
Yeah.
going in, but a lot of people were, and he kind of lived up to my expectations. I'll just run real quick through my team: Andy Dalton, Josh McCown, Zach Mettenberger. So I obviously didn't jump on quarterback too early, which a lot of people will in a 2-quarterback league. Running backs, I'm led by Matt Forte. I've obviously done a lot of juggling with my running backs. I got Isaiah Corral. I remember drafting him. Benny Cunningham, Dan Heron. I just recently grabbed Ronnie Hillman, who obviously has been out for a while. Latavius Murray is another recent grab. Bishop Sankey, Ben Tate. Bishop Sankey I probably had all along, and because you know how much I was in love with him,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah,
disappointed me.
that's right.
I think the strength of my team lies here, though. Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon, Brandon Marshall, Jordy Nelson, Steve Smith, Kenny Stills, and Golden Tate. So if I'm going to do anything in this, it's going to be Matt Forte and my 6 or 7 receivers I start. Tight end, I skipped on that too, basically. Zach Ertz, I was hoping was going to be the man, and I think
Yeah, no
we can all
kidding.
say he disappointed us. Heath Miller, picked up Michael Rivera and Jacob Tammy a little while back, so I've been kind of rotating. Mostly the guys I've been picking up and dropping have been in the running back and the tight end core, but there's various slim pickings when you have pretty deep roster there, and you don't even have 22 total players. You start 11 each week, none of which are kickers or defenses. So, I mean, it's a lot of fun. One thing I'd like to throw out there to our listeners is the Scott Fish Bowl. Like I said, right now 240 teams. Next year, I think he's expanded to 360. Was it, Slim? You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but
That sounds about
he'll
right.
save us
Yeah.
spots if we have fans of the auction that want to go in this and compete against people from, you name every different fantasy football site in the industry. And then this year, what would it have been? 240, I think. How many fans versus experts? I can't remember the breakdown. 180 experts, 60 fans, perhaps. But he'll save
Yeah,
spots if we
maybe.
let him know. He's got more than enough people to fill the 360 spots right now, but he's trying to save an opportunity for fans of some of the people involved in it to get in next year. So maybe tweet us or email us on our Gmail account, or give some of us a tweet, and perhaps we could hold your spot for the 2015 draft right now if we can maybe each get a fan in there. But so, anyways, we're going into week 14. This is a big week for us. Hopefully, get into the finals. Top 10 advance into the next week, or the top 2 advance to the Marvin Division Finals. So Slim's in this too, and Slim's doing quite well. Slim, what about your team?
Well, come off a good week this week. I didn't get the bye like Blister did, but so my points actually counted this week, and I think I was the second highest scoring team by. I missed the highest scoring by less than a point. I was over 200 points, 233 points or something like that. But yeah, no, it's been a good year, fairly decent year. I did the same kind of approach as you, Blister. I waited on quarterbacks. I ended up taking Ben Roethlisberger in probably about the 7th round
That
as
paid
my
off.
first quarterback. Yeah, no, it did. And then I streamed guys. I'm trying to think who I started with. I know, shoot, it's been a while. Johnny Manziel was someone I came out of the draft with. Obviously, I haven't used him yet.
Yet.
But well, who knows? But I know, like right now on my roster, I've got Mettenberger and Kyle Orton. I've had Orton on my roster for quite a while. Actually, Mettenberger's been on there quite a while too. Once Jake Locker went down early in the year, I picked him up just hoping that he was going to be better than Charlie Whitehurst, and it actually worked out. So yeah, I remember this draft. I had the 110. So I took LaShawn McCoy, who fell. Or sorry, no. I had the 102. So I took McCoy with the second, and then I had to wait all the way back around, and I grabbed Levy and Bell, and then Randall Cobb, and just kind of went from there. My receivers definitely aren't as strong as yours, Blister, but my running backs are pretty sweet right now, and Trey Mason's emerged finally. So yeah, it's been. I'm trying to think who my receivers were. Oh, I know I came out with Boykin was a guy that I had. He's done nothing. I think I had Victor Cruz in this one too, which it's kind of hurt, but managed to piece some things together with Brandon LaFell and Robert Woods here and there. But yeah, doing okay so far. Hopefully we can keep it going.
Yeah, don't ask me about the Scott Fishbowl. We'll just leave that away.
It was okay.
You can save your team bucks, but I should throw out there too. It's a free entry, but the winners from the finals get $250. There's $279 Roto Bowl entries. There's different leagues. There's free subscriptions to sites like Dynasty League
We'll have
Football.
to throw some out next year too.
4 for 4, RotoViz, Pro Football Focused, all kinds of things. So it's really kind of neat to, scout $35 scout leagues. There's all kinds of neat prizes that people donate from the industry itself. So like I said, it's a fun one to be involved in. I liked that one, and I liked it was a good year so far.
Okay, so Blister, I know you're in a ton of leagues. Anything else major you wanna talk about out there? I know you're doing pretty well in a few.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a few. I think because in the end, like, it's not about it's not so much about bragging ourselves up or making us look bad either. It's just, I think in the end, what were some of the things that made us successful? What were some of the things that maybe did not? We started another league again. This small world, Twitter and everything else. Mr. Auction himself, Vincent Gabriel, asked us if we'd be interested in joining a league. I remember Beckett forwarded this to me, and I selected. I said, "Sure, I'm interested." So I mean, we've got this new league called the ECL, Executive Champions League. So the members of it, again, are spaced out. I think we're the only Canadians, but it's spaced out all over the states. And I know Don out in San Diego, they like to give a hard time about San Diego. The boys in Texas believe that's the best place. And there's obviously New York and everywhere else, well represented anyways. But right now we're going in on a bye as well this week because we finished 9-4, not the best record. The best record was 11-2, but we had the best point total, so that awarded us a bye
too, right? The best.
Yeah, 60 points. And I look back in that one, how many times, 2 weeks in a row, Big Ben threw 6 touchdowns. He was on our bench for about 75. I mean, we could have. I mean, everybody has a few of those instances, but we definitely could have had even a crazier number. But it's a keeper league, so it's got. I won't go into all the rules because they get quite probably confusing. But in the end, we keep about 8 players off of this year's roster, and we do. The draft started last year on March 1st. And the first 5 rounds of drafting, you can only keep 2 of those players going forward for the next year. So Big Ben is who I got slated to start this week. We got Justin Forsett, Eddie Lacy starting at running back, and Dan Herron at the flex this week. Antonio Brown obviously has been huge. Golden Tate, Julian Edelman. At wide receiver, tight end I've played with a bit. I know we started with Jason Witten. We've got rid of him. I got Antonio Gates in there right now. I picked up the Eagles D when somebody dropped him because they're scoring well. Steven Gostkowski, of course. Kicker. On our bench right now, Russell Wilson, Benny Cunningham, Shane Vereen, Pierre Garcon, Brandon LaFell, Mohamed Sanu, Heath Miller, Alfred Blue, Terrence West, and the Patriots D. And I would say out of that list, Pierre Garçon has been probably one of the biggest disappointments, and that'll be echoed across most of the leagues that I'm not doing well in.
That bench sounds like a starting lineup in the preseason.
There was many weeks that our bench outscored most of the people in the league, and that's the truth. It was that good. But Pierre Garçon is a guy I'm pretty safe to say he was a day one draft pick, and he won't be on the squad next year. So he was very disappointing. But we got some young guys there like Alfred Blue, Terrence West we might be hanging on to going forward because they're drafted later, and potentially we could hold on to them for a long time. But again, we got the bye. I think obviously Antonio Brown, Eddie Lacy's starting to come on. Yeah. Justin Forsette's been excellent. Golden Tate's been great. Hopefully Dan Herron is a nice pickup for down the stretch here. Shane Vereen hasn't been all that exciting either, and he's a day one draft pick, probably released to the Wolves again at the end of the year. So we'll have to make a few decisions. But again, that's a fun one. Uncle Buckets and I kind of share the team, and a silent partner I have to say is Slim in the background there because we've bounced a lot of things off him over the course of the year as well. But that was a fun league. So far, so good.
So, Slim, what about you? Big.
Sorry.
You want to talk about some of that, or you want to look at the auction? You want to look at the Canadian Fantasy Football Championships?
Oh yeah, we can look at that one. Slim.
Well, the Canadian Fantasy Football one. That was kind of a fun one. We just on Twitter kind of jumped into a bunch of us Canadian fantasy football guys. I think it was Neil Parker started that one. And yeah, 2-quarterback league. Didn't go so well. I know Monty Ball was one of my top picks. Stephen Ridley, Ryan Matthews, that was my starting 3 running backs who are out for a good chunk of the year. My receivers were Victor Cruz, Brian Quick. Those were 2 of my starters. Quarterbacks, again, I waited on QBs, ended up with Eli Manning, Geno Smith. Geno was benched for a good chunk of the year. So needless to say, my team was decimated pretty much from week 3 with injuries. Yeah, it's been an ugly mess the rest of the year. So I don't really have anything good to say about that one. I'll just go through a couple of the other ones. More or less along the same lines of the fan league. I mean,
before you move on, I was in that league with you. Remember? I can mention that so we can not come back.
Well, I don't know. Do we want to keep jumping? I don't know. Whatever.
Well,
okay.
Let's keep the same league.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I was in that league with Slim, and it was a 2-quarterback league too. Basically, it was a super flex, so you'd want a couple quarterbacks. And I remember how that league started off, and it was again not an auction, just a snake draft. And how it started off was there's no quarterbacks going in the first round, which is crazy. And I think the first guy I might have picked up I might have grabbed Brandon Marshall in the first round, and on the flip side, I was late. I was a late pick. I remember I picked up Peyton Manning, first quarterback off the board, I believe, in the second round. In the end, I just looked at it. I finished dead last. I outscored 7 of the 12 teams. Or was there 14 teams, Slim?
14, I think.
14. I think it was 14. I outscored 7 of them, but I was dead last. So I was like 3-10. But I remember, I think where I really fell apart was my running backs. I think I drafted Ben Tate and Toby Gerhart. Those are my 2, and they sucked. So what I ended up with was Peyton Manning and Joe Flacco were my quarterbacks all year. Mohamed Sanu, Brandon Marshall really didn't help me out. Kenny Stills has really just started to play. I grabbed Latavius Murray, had LeGarrette Blount. That's who I would have had starting this week. Travis Kelce, Larry Donnell, Terrence West, Theo Riddick, Ben Tate, Garçon again, Marcus Wheaton, James Jones. And then the rest don't matter. But yeah, that's a weak team. That's my story there. But
that's your story there.
Underlying theme was Garçon.
Yeah.
Bad news.
That's the problem when you buy so many stocks in the same guy, hey?
Yeah.
That's right.
Too bad.
Anyway, Slim, keep rolling here.
Well, we'll stay in the theme of bad. I mean, go to the fan league. I mean, it's been well documented. I finished in a tie for last. Actually, I wasn't sole worst. There was someone else with the same record as me. But again, I mean, it came down to, and I said this to the guys, I posted a little message to the board. It was probably the toughest draft that I did this year, just in terms of not getting any of the guys that I really hoped to get. I was pumped to get DeMarco Murray out of that draft, but other than that, I mean, Matt Stafford was a guy I got very cheap, but not really a quarterback I wanted. He underperformed. My receivers were by far my worst. Crabtree, Pierre Garçon, and Dwayne Bowe were my starting 3 wide receivers. All 3 were garbage. Doug Martin was my RB2, garbage. Zach Ertz was my starting tight end, garbage. So really, I had one decent player on my team, and Pierre Thomas was another running back I had. He's been garbage all year. So, yeah, it was just an uphill battle the whole way, and it was really competitive in waivers and things like that. And if you're not on it right away, you were losing out. So that's why we always preach, and get on the waivers early and often. And I'm an example. If you're not, then you're not going to dig yourself out of these holes. And that's kind of what happened this year. It was rough. I just hate looking at this team even right now, but it is what it is.
Blister, any recap for you on your fan league?
Very similar to Slim. I mean, I finished 10th out of 12th, 4-9 record. I guess, it broke down right at running back. I remember this one very well because we did an auction. Obviously, that's our forte, and Monty Ball was my number 1 running back. Well, that did not work out well, as we all know. How many times did we complain about that all year in the big high stakes one? Right now, if I was starting this week, I'd have Bishop Sankey, Anthony Dixon in at running back. Pretty weak. Monty Ball on the bench, Alfred Blues on the bench, and I picked up Adrian Peterson, hoping that he might come back, and that didn't help me get the playoff push. Again, this is a league all year long. I had Antonio Brown, poor guy, playing by himself. This week I had a huge week, though. DeAndre Hopkins was big.
Oh, yeah.
Kenny Stills as well.
Yeah.
So I think I actually won this week. I had a pretty nice point total, but all in all, they weren't the guys that were there all year long. Other than Antonio Brown, no consistency. Tony Romo at quarterback, Big Ben. Probably every time Big Ben did good again, he was on my bench for Romo. So yeah, it wasn't a good league. Heath Miller at tight end. I probably bounced around. I see Dwayne Allen's on my bench. Who knows who I started with? But yeah, it was one of those auctions that didn't pan out from the get-go, and the guys I had that I spent my big money on, like Antonio Brown, did work out. Monty Ball obviously did not, and that right there sunk me. Not good. So
Sunk you. Well,
not good.
And as Kiwi pointed out on Twitter, I got to save face for the auctioneer in the fan leagues, the first of the 3 and the only one in the playoffs. I crushed the Marino Man Crush this last week, 161 to 109. Finishes me off in 4th place at the regular season end, and I face off against Ice Lacey. But I think it'll be my 3rd battle against old Bill Dreffel. So it should be good. The 2 teams know each other very well, and good. Anyways, my team in there. I love my team in the fan league. I think that everything worked out properly, as it didn't for you guys. It did for me. Russell Wilson. Has been good. DeMarco Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Julio Jones, Golden Tate, T.Y. Hilton, Heath Miller. I have Heron right now playing as my flex. I'm running the Vikings D, Dan Bailey. Fred Jackson on my bench. Sanu brought me through a lot of weeks on my bench. If I look through my position ranks here on my starting lineup, the lowest guy is Dan Heron, and he just started playing. So other than that, the next lowest guy is Heath Miller, ranked 11th by his position, but everyone else is like single digits. So it's worked out well for me there. So hopefully I can. And I guess we should we want to end off, guys, with the big auction.
Well, we got the ESPN expert league. We're all in the playoffs there.
Yeah, that's right.
We can go to that one.
I didn't make it.
You're in the playoffs, man.
What?
You made her in as the 8th seed. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know
That
what
sounds so
though?
happy.
Like last
Wow.
week when we talked about this, well, hey buddy, there's money on the line. Go for it. Get in there. You're playing Jared Hines. Jared, we had a little talk. He's probably listening. Might even have a question coming up here. But last week, I needed to beat him to stay in there. He was the number one seed, and I beat him. Took him down. It was wonderfully surprising. I didn't see that happening because if I would have lost, I definitely wouldn't have made it into the playoffs. There's one, two. There's four of us in the playoffs with the 6-7 record, so I don't like my chances this week. I'm projected to lose, and I probably will. I go up against Albar, our Calgary friend.
Yes.
His nickname is Foster the Bishop. I got Tom Brady, Le'Veon Bell, Jeremy Hill, Julian Edelman, Kendall Wright, Kenny Stills, Jordan Reed. Right now, Andre Holmes at the flex, Dolphins D, and Randy Bullock. Going up against Tannehill, Foster, C.J. Anderson, Andre Johnson, Mike Wallace, John Brown, Gronk, Justin Forsett, Bills, and Cody. I'm done. But again, on my bench, people that brought me to this wonderful 6-7, Monty Ball, Pierre Garcon, and the rest are just guys that I picked up along the way. But my hope, maybe if Latavius Murray plays, I might be able to slide him in there for Andre Holmes. And I mean, their only problem is they're playing San Fran. It's not going to be easy, and they're probably going to be losing. So I don't know how much he's going to get to do. But yeah, I'm projected to lose again. So I'll need a last week I needed a miracle. This week I'll need another one. So it's too bad because this is a league I kind of started. I kind of wanted to win it.
Slim, any comments coming in as the 8th seed here?
Well, I'm just looking now, and honestly, I didn't even think I was going to be in it. I didn't realize there were so many teams. I hadn't looked at the standings in forever. I knew I was below 500. I didn't realize there was like 5 other people that were below 500. But no, I mean, this was a pool. Actually, I was stoked when I left the draft. I loved my team, and now I look at it, and again, it was another one of these pools where just wasn't quick enough on waivers all the time. And so eventually injuries started happening and guys didn't perform, and I could just never fill those voids, and I was left with garbage kind of going in. But I guess you chip in a chair, right? You never know. But I got my work cut out for me when I got to start guys like Michael Floyd and Ruben Randall in there this week. But whatever. We'll see what happens here. Maybe Reggie Bush will finally come back and do something for me.
Maybe.
Bucks, you got some nice players this week.
Yeah, well, I'm the 5th seed going in, and what's interesting here is I get to play our buddy Goose, the Bears fan, in both this league and the big auction in the playoffs. And this one, I'm the 5 or the 4, and I play him. He's the 5 seed, and then in the big auction, it's flipped. So we're head-to-head in 2 playoff battles, and in real life, the Bears and the Cowboys play Thursday night. So it's going to be a good week for us. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of chirping going on because there usually is between the two of us. So that's good.
Before you go on, did you have a wardrobe change?
Yeah, well, I did a little. It's the anniversary show. I just thought,
How many outfits do you got?
Wardrobe change, and you guys might not have noticed, but did a little twirling of some of the clothing as it came off. I just trying to entertain the fans. Anyways, my team. I like my team in this
show
one
do you
too.
think this is?
Tony Romo, DeMarco Murray, Rashad Jennings now. It's going to be huge for me coming in. Antonio Brown. Keenan Allen's finally starting to do what he's supposed to do. Kelvin Benjamin was a nice late-round pickup. Zach Ertz, garbage, but he's whatever. It's better than who I have on my bench as a Quarless. I think I just picked up because there's been nothing in the tight end position there. Joik Bell, the Lions D, Matt Bryant, Terrence Williams has helped me out. Jordan Matthews has helped me out. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about my team here in the matchups, especially this week. There's a lot of those opponent ranks in the green. I like to see that. So I'm excited about the Experts League coming in the playoffs here. I think things will go all right. I don't like the bracket that I'm in because I have Jared Hines if everything works out the way it's supposed to. So I don't enjoy that part. But anyways,
the juggernaut.
Yeah, his team has been sick. Thanks for bringing them in, Blister. Anyways,
Yeah.
and then let's go to the big auction, the one that means the most. Blister, talk to us about where you are as the 2 seed.
Oh, am I?
Standing record as a 2 seed. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
finished as the 2 seed at 8-5. Tight league. Tight.
This was
Five.
a wicked. I was looking at the parity in this, like,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Well, it is. Yeah. What a league. I mean, it's tight. I was happy to say, and I think it was A-Slim the first time I was a overall regular season points champ. So that's usually
right.
you and Beckett's race there. I'm usually at the bottom dreaming
Not
of
this
points.
year. My team point total is not good, but anyways.
Me too.
Yeah. So my team for the auction, I remember. I wasn't too excited about either quarterback that I got. I didn't intend to spend much money on them, but I think I got Russell Wilson first, if I remember correctly, for a few bucks, and then Jay Cutler came up, or I might even have nominated him, and I thought maybe I could.
High on Cutler.
Well, everybody else was. So I thought,
Yeah.
well, maybe just because everybody is, and we did this in late August. I thought, well, maybe I can get the Bears fan in the room to bid with a little bit of money on him. But no, he didn't. So I got Jay Cutler, and so it's been a situation all year long where, other than not when they're on their bye, they're both have similar matchups. It seems like, and when I play Jay, he gets me single-digit points, and Russell's on the bench with a tougher matchup, and he gets 20-some, and then flip it around, and that's what happens going the other way. So, yeah, I mean, they haven't really hurt me, though. They both got over 224 fantasy points on the year, so that's not bad. My best, obviously, buy was Le'Veon Bell, and he wasn't even that expensive. I can't remember, but $38, I think. So he's been carrying it for me at the running back position, and I've been kind of piecing the rest together. I had Rashad Jennings, and obviously at the start he was fine, but as we kind of predicted in our kit that he'd get banged up, and he did. Pierre Thomas, like Slim said, I've had him for quite a while, maybe from the get-go, and he's really done nothing for me. Picked up Dan Herron just a couple weeks ago there. Well, I didn't have much money left to bid, and I got Dan, so hopefully he can be the piece to be my RB2 the rest of the way if Rashad is banged up. But again, and the other part that's really helped me was Antonio Brown. I don't have the number of receivers I'd like to have when we move to PPR this year. But that's probably because I'm carrying 2 defenses and 2 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks. But Antonio Brown's been holding me together. Marcus Colston hasn't been very good for me. Doug Baldwin I picked up. He has done nothing since I picked him up, and I don't even want him on my team anymore. Pierre Garçon, again.
Doug we trust.
I can't believe I'm winning this. I mean, if he would have went off this year, I would be solid probably in every pool. And I picked up Brandon LaFell at 1.2, and he's actually my second best receiver. So I think I remember even talking about him in the kit, saying I'll take some time, but he's a big guy, could be a good target for Tom Brady, and that's actually unfolding kind of like I thought it would. I spent a little bit of money on Gronk, and that's been paying off because he's the number 1 tight end right now. Travis Kelce's been a little disappointing. I've debated on whether I should even bother keeping him going in. If I dropped him at some point, somebody probably would have picked him up, but I can't see me playing him over some of these other guys. It's just too inconsistent. Steven Gostkowski, he might not be anymore, but he was a number 1 kicker. Dolphins and Patriots D have been flip-flopping them. So, that they were the highest scoring team. Believe it or not, there's other teams out there that have maybe more consistency and a little less range. I mean, for me, if Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell or Gronk would go down or would have gone down at any point, those are the 3 reasons probably I am where I am. So without those guys, I wouldn't, who knows, might not even be in the playoffs.
Slim, how about you? We have similar records, or the same record, 7-6. You're limping in here with 2 losses coming into the playoffs, and a grand total of 32 points separating us in the overall standings. Talk to us about your big auction team.
Well, I think this was the pool. I haven't looked back, but I started off, I think, 5-0, and I've just been on a horrendous slide lately. A lot of it, my running backs have been banged up all year. This was the pool where I took Peyton Manning as well. So right away I had Manning, AJ Green, and Monty Ball. And I was probably about, we'll say almost 3/4 of my budget was gone. So then it was wait and try and piece stuff together. And well, AJ Green has been hurt a lot of the year and inconsistent, and Monty Ball's been a waste of money. So I've just kind of been, it's another one of these pools behind the 8-ball clawing away. And, you know, at the draft I didn't have much money to fill in any of the holes. I had to take Shane Vereen as my RB2. I'm trying to remember who else I came out of there with. I want to say maybe Kyrie Robinson as my RB3, and just a bunch of pluggers like that, hoping that one of them would emerge. Never really happened, so I ended up spending the majority of my free agent money on running backs this year. I've got Crowell on my team now, Bryce Brown, Bobby Rainey. I had to use him for 2 weeks at one stretch when Doug Martin was hurt and Sims was still hurt. He actually did all right for me. But it's been like that all year, trying to piece together running back core. So my wide receivers really have gone unchanged since the draft, and it's become one of the weakest spots of my team, really. AJ Green, he's there. Need him to do more. But then it's Eric Decker. I came out with him as a wide receiver too. He was cheap, and I wasn't too bummed out about that because he was so cheap, and thinking, hey, he's the number one option on the Jets. Well, lately, I mean, the Jets' passing attack has been unbelievably bad. So he's, you know, really unusable, even though I don't have anyone else to use. And then I got Ruben Randall, who's been all over the place this year, not very often good, and Reggie Wayne, kind of the same thing. I expected more out of him this year, but Hilton's, you know, been a lot more consistent, and Moncrief is having some decent games lately, so Reggie Wayne hasn't been doing much. And again, Zach Ertz was my man. He sucks. And yeah, it's just been an uphill battle in this one. I've been scratching and clawing, though, and thankfully I got off to a hot start early. Even though I am the lowest scoring team in this pool, I still made the playoffs, and gonna have my work cut out for me if I want to make a run in this one this year. I don't think I'll be making the finals again this year.
Well, hey, you never know. We limped in last year. So my auction, I drafted Nick Foles. He did, you know, I mean, as far as fantasy wise, he was doing just fine for me as we went through things, and he got banged up. I brought in Mark Sanchez. He's been very serviceable as we've been going through. I did pick up Joe Flacco just in case, you know, during his playoff run. There's a couple of decent matchups there, and he is heating up a bit too, so that's good. I've had a tough time at the running back position. I drafted AP, spent big bucks on him, and, well, we all know how that turned out. So I've been piecing it together with Frank Gore and Fred Jackson. Trey Mason coming on now. He was huge for me last week, so I could make the playoffs. Jared McKinnon's been helping out. I picked up Latavius Murray, Bishop Sankey. I've spotted a little bit here and there. It hasn't really paid off. I was happy to get Michael Floyd. Tough play. Jordy Nelson's been gigantic for me. Golden Tate. I've been plugging in a little Terrence Williams. And I just picked up Robert Woods, who I think might help me out in the playoffs. So that's kind of my team right now. It did hurt with losing AP. I mean, it was a killer. But just like Slim was saying, you know, just kind of keep plugging away and working the waiver and was just hoping for a big week last week so that I could make the playoffs. You hate being the champ and then not making the playoffs. So happy I got here. I'm the 5 seed. I'm okay with that, and I'm actually not minding the team as I move forward here. So there's a lot of guys that are starting to rev up a little bit, and if Jordy Nelson can get big and hot, then who knows what's going to happen as we move forward in the playoffs here. All right, so that was a quick little recap. Well, it's been an hour. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to make that a separate episode. What do you think about that, guys? And then we'll just
whatever you want, man. Sure.
Yeah, we'll just go into segment we'll go into segment 1, and then we'll roll that bad boy, and we'll make it. I'll edit that one tonight and put out the.
You edit it however you want to edit.
You got it. All right. So there's a recap, lots of recapping, and that's good. So I'll just leave a little dead air here so we can find it, and I'll give a. There it is. All right, guys, let's roll into it. Yeah, old school. Bring them to segment number 1, guys. Segment number 1 is called We Just Got a Letter. So we just got a letter. Actually, we got a lot of tweets kind of coming in. There's been a lot of banter about the 100th episode, and And a couple of questions coming in here late. So let's take a look at. Oh, I just lost my background. That's not good. All right. Anyways, it's all good. Going old school again too. All right. First tweet is from. Is it Jared Hines? Is that who that is? Blister at side pocket underscore kit. No, it's different, Jared, right?
No,
It must be.
All right, so at side pocket underscore kid, he asks, he's thinking about starting Heron over Macklin in flex because Philly plays Seattle this week, and he doesn't trust Sanchez. Who answered yep?
I think I said that.
Okay, so Blister, do you agree?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I think Heron's been getting a lot of touches. He's got a pretty good matchup this week. I'm not as worried about Macklin as maybe I am Sanchez. It's this Seattle D coming to town, starting to get things rolling along. Hell, the last two teams they played to 3 points. I don't blame him for being a little nervous about that right now. So I think Heron is probably trending upwards, and in this situation, Macklin maybe heading down a bit. So I would be fine with that play.
All right. Let's move on to the next tweet. At JGibson314 has tweeted us yet again. He asks, do I add a backup quarterback for my playoff run? And if so, who do I drop? So just quickly, he sent a picture of his team. His quarterback is Tom Brady. Who do you drop? It's not Jamal Charles, Niles Davis, Mark Ingram, Ryan Matthews, Larry Fitz, Alan Hearns. You probably drop him because he's on the injury report. Andre Johnson, Dante Moncrief, Kenny Stills, Sammy Watkins, Roddy White, and I'll just leave it at that. So he's dropping Hearns, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say for sure.
Yeah,
Could
all
be
right.
safe there.
All right, so I mean that's a Tuesday question, and it's all right. It's early in the week, so I won't hold it against him for not knowing that Hearns is ending up on IR. Okay, so that's all we had there for a second. Yeah. He's coming up in the news here. Yeah, he's coming up in the news.
I wasn't reading that.
Yeah, well, here
there you go. That's easy.
There's a good segue. Let's roll into segment number 2, guys. Segment number 2 is the fantasy football news, buy or sell. So in the fantasy news, buy or sell, we take a look at headlines in fantasy football, and we ask our experts if they're buying or selling, the implications. So the first headline here is Rex Ryan confirms that Geno Smith will start Week 14. Blister, this one's going to you. The Jets coach Rex Ryan said quarterback Geno Smith will start at Minnesota. He was wicked on the weekend. Smith dropped back and passed the ball 15 times. He went 7 for 15 for 65 yards, and he was picked off. So, Blister, buy or sell. You can just sit Eric Decker this week.
I would. I mean, he's the 44th ranked receiver in PPR, coming off a big game last week with 4 whole targets and 2 receptions. I just don't trust that offense. I mean, they had a good ground game going last week, and I think that's the less they can put the ball in Geno's hand, the better. So, yeah, I'd hope that you have better options than that this week. I wouldn't hope that you're advancing in fantasy football playoffs rides on Eric Decker.
Guys, I'm going to apologize right up front. I had Alan Hearns, Justin Hunter in the back of my mind. Alan Hearns is not the IR, it's Justin Hunter. I like to apologize for that. So let's go back quickly over Jay Gibson's lineup here.
It's the same answer.
It's still Alan Hearns, because if we look, Niles Davis you want to hold as a handcuff, especially with Jamal Charles questionable. Larry Fitz, Andre Johnson, Moncrief had a good week. Kenny Stills had a good week. Still Alan Hearns?
Yeah, I think it is just because he's got 7 receivers there. Exactly. He's never going to play more than, 4 of them. And so he's just so hit and miss, Alan Hearns. He has had big games and then he disappears. Larry, again, he is obviously not many points better than him, but I think these other guys, Kenny Stills' role is just going to keep, without Brandon Cooks, he's there. Sammy's the number 1 if he's healthy. Roddy, that's the thing. Andre, Larry, and Roddy, not the youngest of the receiving core. It's hard to say what they're going to get. You're going to get out of them every week, but probably the better bets than Alan Hearns.
And so recommendation is then to pick up a backup heading into the playoffs, especially without any waiver moves?
Well, that's the key, eh? We don't. If he doesn't have any waiver moves after this week, then yeah, you better, because if Tom goes down, you don't have any quarterback. That's you're giving up 20 probably points or 25 points a week, and that you probably won't last more than one more week. So you can probably afford to get a quarterback in there versus Allen Hurns.
All right. So number 2 in the fantasy news, Slim, we're going to come to you. The Titans put Justin Hunter, again I apologize, on IR with a lacerated spleen. So the Titans have placed him on season-ending IR. This reports the Tennessean newspaper. He received the lacerated spleen on Sunday in the loss to the Texans. So Slim, buy or sell? Hello, Kendall Wright.
Definitely a buy. We saw him have a decent game this week. The offense is struggling at times, but I mean, they could very well be down quite a bit, and obviously he's going to be a key part in trying to keep them in games. So for sure, his value has to spike a little bit, even though Justin Hunter didn't have tons of production for Wright to steal. He's still got to get a spike in some of this production. Like, we saw 7 receptions last week while he had 1 the week before. Well,
right.
I mean, even if he's going to fill that void a little bit, I have a hard time seeing him get less than 4 catches a week going forward now. Depending on the league you're in, he's easily a wide receiver 3 start the rest of the way.
Okay. Blister, coming to you, tight end Dwayne Allen expected to play on Sunday. So the Colts waived tight end Wesley Saunders, who knew he picked him up. And so tight end Dwayne Allen will play against Cleveland. This reports the Indianapolis Star. So Dwayne Allen has 7 touchdown catches. He's missed the last 2 games with an ankle injury. So Blister, buy or sell? Dwayne Allen is a must start if he plays.
I'll sell that. I think Kobe Fleener's really started to come along, and Kobe has that connection with Luck from back in the college days. And I mean, the last 3 of the last 4 weeks, he scored over 17 fantasy points. The last time Dwayne played, he had in week 8, he only had 1, but in week 9, he had 17.7, outscoring Dwayne Allen that week by 3 points. So I just think that Kobe Fleener right now has got the trust in the eye of Andrew Luck, and you never know if Dwayne Allen coming in, how many plays he's going to get coming in off this ankle injury. How healthy is he? Could he re-injure the ankle? So I would be a little cautious with Dwayne Allen this week, especially in light of what Kobe Fleener's been doing recently. Fleener's been getting 7 targets last game, 4 the game before, 7 before that, 11 before that. So I think he's starting to work his way a little more prominent into that offense.
Okay, Slim, coming to you, Lions running back Reggie Bush, who you mentioned earlier, is expected to return on Sunday. He's missed 3 straight games with an ankle injury and is practicing this week. This, according to the Detroit News, he is expected to play against the Bucs. So, Slim, buy or sell? Joique Bell is still a better start.
I buy it. We don't know what Bush's use is going to be like, how effective he can be. I still think Joique Bell gets all the goal line work. They're going against a fairly soft Buccaneers team where you would think that the Lions should be able to put up some points. That would mean some scoring opportunities, hopefully, for Bell. And even if they get up big, then that means they're probably going to run the ball a little bit, and that's, to me, Joique Bell versus Reggie Bush doing that as well. So I think Bell gets a lot more opportunities this week still.
All right, I hope so, because I got him playing in flex in the playoffs. Blister, moving back to you. The Jets running back Chris Johnson turns back the clock. Chris Johnson looked like his younger version of himself on Monday's loss to the Dolphins. He ran the ball 17 times for 105 yards, averaging 6.2 yards per carry, and finally got his first 100-yard game of the season. He had the nice little cutback run for 47 yards, and just, I guess, an interesting note too, Blister, that CJ2K was not targeted in the passing game at all. So they visit the Vikings in Week 14. So, Blister, buy or sell? CJ2K is a legit flex going forward.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to buy that. Last year, CJ2K2, he started off pretty slow. I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the first 6 weeks, he had only one game over 10 fantasy points, and he finished off the second two-thirds of the season quite a bit better, having only one game in the last 5 games under 13 fantasy points. So, and going back to what I said earlier with Decker, I think that in light, like they had a great running attack on Monday night. I think if for in order for them to, not let the other team's offense on the field too much and do so much damage, they're going to have to run the ball as much as they can, keep it out of Geno's hands or Michael Vick's hands or whoever they end up starting, and let them kill some clock and not throw the ball around too much and lose the game because of their quarterback's arm. So, he could very well be a legit flex start going forward. The Vikings are 24th ranked against the run this week, and they give up 124 yards per game on the ground. So, yeah, if he can continue to run like he has, it'll be a good flex play.
Don't throw the ball around too much. He had 15 passes, Gino. Too
15.
much. Holy. It's
Scary.
terrible. It's terrible.
A little scary there.
Not even our high school football team limits themselves to 15 pass attempts. Anyways, so let's go to the last news item. Reports are that the Giants running back Rashad Jennings is unlikely to miss time due to the ankle injury. So he suffered an ankle injury on Sunday against the Jags. Apparently it's not too serious in nature, and he is unlikely to miss time. He did rush for 91 yards and 2 scores on 26 carries on Sunday. He did not finish the game, though, because he couldn't, quote-unquote, press down on his injured ankle. The Giants play the Titans in Week 14, Slim. So the question is, buy or sell? Rashad Jennings is an RB1 as you head into the playoffs.
I'll buy. I mean, I am a little worried. Jennings is typically a guy that doesn't seem to heal very fast from injuries, but I mean, they sound optimistic that he's not going to miss time, so I'll take that as a positive, and I'll assume that he's going to be out there, and if he is, he's got a very good matchup this week, so you have to like him as an RB1 with your first week in the playoffs here.
Again, I hope so because I'm playing him. Anyways, that's the end of segment 2, guys. We're going to move quickly into segment number 3. Segment 3 is called Livewire. So in the Livewire, it's when our experts take a look at the waiver wire and they tell you who they're targeting to pick up this week, and an important week in many leagues because many leagues are not picking up after this week. So the waiver wire is going to be huge this week, and there's not a whole lot out there too. So interesting to hear what the boys have to say about it. So Blister, why don't we start with you? Who's somebody you're targeting this week on the waivers?
Well, I was looking at maybe Charles Johnson in Minnesota. Prior to this week, he had received 7 targets and 11 targets respectively, weeks 11 and 12. This week, only 4. 2 weeks prior to this week, he had just over 14 fantasy points. So if you're looking at a little more depth at receiver, he seems to have moved up the depth chart there in Minnesota, seems to be getting a few more looks, and he's got some good speed. So he could be a guy that going forward into the playoffs could be a sneaky little play for you. I mean, they're in a situation now where they're not officially out of their playoffs in the real football, I don't think, as of yet. So they might be getting to that stage, though, and time to evaluate some players going forward. So I think Charles Johnson could be a nice little play for you.
Charles Johnson says, Blister. Slim, who are you targeting?
Stedman Bailey. I mean, Tavon Austin doesn't get used very much. Kenny Britt doesn't get used very much. We saw now that they made the quarterback change again in St. Louis, it seems like Stedman Bailey is the guy that's getting the majority of the looks right now. Could be coming in a good time. Maybe you're thin at wide receiver. You want to jump on him and grab him before the playoffs. Use him as a wide receiver 4, as a flex or something like that, whatever your league's like, and probably get him for quite cheap.
All right. There's the second waiver wire pickup. Blister, who else are you targeting?
Marion Grice, signed by Arizona a while back. He was drafted by San Diego. He's a rookie. They didn't. They let him go, and Arizona picked him up. And now with Andre Ellington kind of banged up, he's not expected to practice this week. Marion Grice, they said, would get the start ahead of Stephon Taylor. So if you're looking for RB1 going into your playoffs and you're hurting, that's the man to go for.
All right, there you go. Good name. All right, Blister digging deep. Slim, what about you? Who's your second target?
Marcus Lee. We've seen in Jacksonville, wide receivers have been coming and going, and he showed flashes. Allen Robinson came on. Now he's hurt, but he's kind of emerging. Again, rookie wide receiver, part of this unbelievable record-breaking rookie wide receiver class.
No kidding.
So yeah, somebody's got to do something in the passing game, and yes, it's a little bit of a crapshoot, but I like his chances as much or more than anybody else's on the roster. So I like the upside here heading into the playoffs.
All right, Blister, got anyone else on your list?
I'm just trying to think. I think we talked about quite a few of them. I'll just take one quick more look through my list here, see if there's anybody worth mentioning. We talked about Dan Herron before, Kenny Stills. Davante Adams is a guy that I wouldn't get real excited about. Yeah. When Bill Belichick comes to town, he's going to try to shut down the best weapons they have. So his job probably last week was to try to shut down Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. And if that's the case, who are they going to throw to? Well, it's going to be Davante Adams. But going forward, the teams that they're going to come up against here aren't going to have that personnel that can shut down their top two receivers. They're not going to be so strategic, I don't think, as Belichick in game planning against them. So I would be real shocked to see Davante Adams get 3 catches this week. Even coming off a huge game last week, I would be shocked if he did that. I would really be more surprised, or more inclined to think that Jordy Nelson is going to be huge this week, and as will Randall Cobb. So I'm not telling you to go out there and get him, but unless I did have a little footnote on our live wire segment. If you're going, there's a couple more leagues that are also keeper leagues. I mean, keep 6 guys going forward, and my teams have been awful this year. I finished in the money last year, and this year they're dead last. Like, not dead last. I think one is, and one might be in the middle of the pack, but I think it's too far gone to make up the difference. So I'm starting to look at guys that have been put out on the waivers that if I want to pick them up before the season's over, then I can have them going into next year potentially as a keeper, a guy like Allen Robinson we just mentioned. So take a look out there if there's some young talent receivers that have been hurt, or a running back or something out there that could be playing next year. Maybe you can start loading up your bench with some of these guys going into the last few weeks, so that you have some better options when you have to claim your 6 keepers or whatever the case may be. So take a look at something like that. Dante Moncrief, for example. Yeah.
Nice advice looking forward. Always paying attention, Blister. I like that.
Always ready.
Slim, you got anyone else on the list?
No, that's about it. No, there's not much out there right now, unless you're picking up a tight end or something just to, pair with whoever you got. Maybe it's crappy Zach Ertz, but...
Maybe it's crappy Zach Ertz. I like it. All right, so we're going to move into segment number 4, guys, and instead of doing a fantasy game breakdown, we've opted to go with a new approach just for this week, taking a look at maybe our regular season fantasy football awards. So let's take a look, guys, at I got 4 awards up on the list. I guess I could have had a lot more, but we've been on for an hour and a half already. Well, this is the second podcast, the first of 2 podcasts, so we've been on for 20 minutes already. Let's take a look at segment number 4, which is no longer the fantasy game breakdown, but we're going to call this the regular season awards. All right, so I've got 4 awards up on the list. Blister, let's take a look at you first. The first one I have up on the list right now is Rookie of the Year.
Well, I want to go, like Slim said earlier, there's a ton of wicked receivers this year that came out of the draft. And the one I think I would give the nod to right now is Odell Beckham Jr. He's only played in 8 games right now, and he sits as a 28th ranked receiver. He's actually one behind Sammy Watkins, who's ranked 27th, and he's had 4 less games. But if you look at his points per game average, it's 18.8, which I'm just going to run that total here real quick for you instead, if I would have pushed the right button. When you look at that sits him as a 7th ranked wide receiver, when you look at his points per game since he started. So his overall points have him ranked 28th. But if you would projected that or looked at his average points per game, it has him all the way up at 7th. So I've seen some of the crazy catches he's made that have been unbelievable. I hope he finishes the year healthy, and I think based on what I've saw so far, he's definitely a game changer. So I like Odell Beckham Jr.
All right, so let's go to you. Who's your rookie of the year after the regular season, the fantasy regular season?
Fantasy regular season, Mike Evans. He's in PPR leagues. I believe he is the 13th ranked. Yeah, 13th ranked wide receiver. Typically we been taught to avoid rookie wide receivers in drafts. Well, these guys, have shattered the mold. In fact, I think it's actually going to make us, change our viewpoint here and make people overdraft guys next year, because this is going to have this recency bias, and we often forget that, this isn't the norm. Even against guys like Cody Latimer and Paul Richardson in Seattle that were drafted fairly high as rookie wide receivers, we look and we think, oh, these guys are garbage. They're not doing anything compared to these other guys. Well, it's not unnormal for rookie wideouts to struggle, and you might be able to get those guys really cheap if you're looking at a keeper league. But anyway, Mike Evans, to me he's my rookie. We saw the massive games that he's had lately. He's been fairly consistent throughout the year. He started off, he averages, about 4, 5, 6 catches a game. He's had those couple massive games. He's got 8 TDs. I just think he's been consistent all year, and he's only getting better.
Well, I do like where he's going right now as far as your playoff run goes, but for me, my rookie of the year is Kelvin Benjamin. I like the consistency out there. I like the double-digit plus scoring. I like that he's getting targeted, double-digit times in half of his games so far this year, 8 scores. I like that. I haven't been afraid to start him after week 1. He's scoring over 15 points in week 1, and away you go. Yeah, he's had a couple of duds, but I just like that he's been big point getter, heavily targeted. He's the weapon in the passing game there. So Kelvin Benjamin for me is my rookie of the year. All 3 receivers, guys. Even though there's been some decent running backs at rookie as well. So interesting going forward. And I think you're right, Slim. Next year's draft will might look a little skewed based on these guys. And I'm sure if Brandon Cooks doesn't get injured, he would be somewhere in that conversation too.
See, I don't know. Do you think? I was trying to think of other guys' honorable mentions, and part of me was like Crowell maybe, but just because he's got so many touchdowns. But I mean, I don't. To me, the 3 guys that we mentioned are the 3 that have to be mentioned, and to me, Cooks is not right. He was a little bit inconsistent, kind of like Jordan Matthews and even Sammy Watkins to an extent. And I don't know. It's crazy though to think about what's going to happen with some of these guys. Like, where would Allen Robinson have been too if he didn't get injured?
Right.
Maybe he wouldn't have the touchdowns, but I think he probably would have had the targets.
I think so.
It's just wild thinking about what's going on with these guys, and I kicked myself for trading, Moncrief and ODB, but I got a decent player, but it's neither here nor there, I guess.
Yeah,
no one wants
I know.
to hear that.
I'm kicking myself for trading the ODB too. Anyways, moving on. Let's take a look at the second award I have up on the list. This is the Comeback Player of the Year. Slim, who's your winner for this year?
I'm gonna go with Jeremy Maclin. He's come off the knee injuries. I had it up here. I think he's like the 5th leading fantasy wide receiver in PPR leagues. A lot of people didn't think that he could do this, and I think he's proven a lot of people wrong. And I'm kind of happy to see him, performing that well. I've always kind of liked him. I felt bad for him in the sense that he was always injured. and it's good to see him getting on the field and actually producing in a fairly prolific offense. So yeah, I'm going to give it to him.
All right, Blister, who's your comeback player of the year?
29-year-old Justin Forsett. He's actually the 7th-ranked running back in PPR, one of only 4 running backs to have broke the 1,000-yard mark at this point. He's got just over 200 fantasy points so far this year, so I don't think anybody expected him to be the man. I mean, we knew when Ray Rice might not be playing that Bernard Pierce would get a chance, and Bernard Pierce has been awful. So, Forsett's really worked out well, and he's been a savior to, I think, quite a few fantasy teams this year.
All right, and for me, it's Emmanuel Sanders, PPR. I got him down as the number 3 overall wide receiver, just behind, well, not just behind, but behind Antonio Brown and Demaryius Thomas. I mean, who would have thought this guy would be able to have a top 3 finish at the end of your fantasy regular season? Games he has in PPR, only 1 game where he hasn't hit double digits, and I mean, listen, since week 7, 13, 39, 25, 24, 21, 21, and 13 last week at KC. He averaged last year only 11 points in PPR per game, and right now he's averaging 20 points. So for me, he is definitely the comeback player of the year. All right. Moving on to the next one, Slim, let's take a look at the biggest bust of the year. Go for it.
Well, this could go a lot of different ways.
And I think I looked at it differently than you guys. So.
Well, and that's fine. And this is where I kind of debated. It's even with the comeback player of the year, and we'll just to go back to it. Obviously, Emmanuel Sanders jumps out to you. I wanted to look at somebody who was virtually irrelevant. I mean, Sanders, some would say he was relevant in the sense he was the number 2 wide receiver on the team he was on last year. Now he's just with Peyton Manning, so it's made it easier for him. With the biggest bust, I was looking at, it's easy to pick somebody that got hurt. And for me, that was something, you can't really predict, or, those things happen in football. I picked AP just for the sense that the reason he was a bust was really nothing football related. He disappointed owners because of stupid shit he did off the field. And he was, consensus a top 5 running back going into this year, maybe even higher for most people. I know I had him as my 3rd-ranked running back. So you would have spent considerable money to get him, and by no fault of the football gods, in the sense that he pulled a hammy or tore his knee or something like that, he was a waste of your fantasy football, it's an auction of your money, just because he was an idiot doing things that he probably shouldn't have been doing off the field. So that's why I give him kind of the biggest bust nod for me anyway.
All right, Blister, how about you? Who's your bust of the year?
There's quite a few running backs I think that could fall into this one, but obviously I've talked a lot about Monty Ball because he was a 1st-round pick.
We've talked a lot about him too, Blister. We've talked lots about him too.
He was expected to do well because he's in a high-powered offense. Every running back prior to him under a Peyton Manning offense was a top 10 running back at worst, and he's had some real doozies over the years. So we had high expectations. Yeah, he's been banged up. He's played in 5 games this year, got 38 fantasy points. He wasn't, very impressive 5 games he was in. But, I see you got another one you're going to mention, but you could even mention other guys. I won't talk about yours, Bex, but Reggie Bush, C.J. Spiller, Toby Gerhart, Doug Martin, Stephen Ridley, Ben Tate, Pierre Thomas Bishop Sankey. All those guys were, Thomas and Joik Bell were 2 top 10, top 20 running backs last year in PPR format, and so everybody was kind of thinking that could be their RB2 or their flex this year, and they didn't produce like that so far.
Yeah, and I was really in a toss-up here. I have right now I have Zach Stacy down on my list, but what I was torn. I wanted to look at a guy who actually has played more than half of the games, and so I'm going to just kind of last minute change my mind before I open the envelope here, and I am going to go to Toby Gerhart because he was a big. I mean, we didn't have him heavily touted, but we just thought based on the number of touches that he's going to get and those types of things that he was just this highly touted guy coming in. You're going to be able to get him for good value. He's going to have volume that's going to make him important. He is okay in the passing game, so PPR is going to be okay. He's listed right now. It's just atrocious where you get him because he's listed as 10 games, so more than half of the games. We're only going into week 14, so 3/4 of the games coming in. He's the 61st overall running back. And look at some of the people around him: C.J. Spiller, Toby Gerhart, Doug Martin, Stephen Ridley. It's trouble. Zach Stacy, like we mentioned, Reggie Bush. So I don't know. Before I open the envelope, I made a change. I'm going to move it to Toby Gerhart just because, as we said, we're looking at things a little bit differently. And he played in 10 games, and still is the 61st overall running back. All right. Lehu Zahar. And the last and probably the most important award of the regular season for fantasy football goes to the MVP of the year, Slim. Brrr. Who's your MVP?
Well, part of this is because it's kind of surprised me a little bit, and I'm going to give it to Andrew Luck. And yeah, it's a passing league and all this, and yeah, it is a passing league, and to me, he's surpassed any expectations definitely that I had. I don't know too many people that thought he would be the top producing fantasy quarterback, which he's been so far. So just based on that alone and how he's kind of outproduced, plus I look at it from a non-fantasy standpoint even right now. If I look at the team that he plays on with some of the weapons maybe that, they don't have much of a running game, even though Rob Bradshaw's fairly good. Offensive line's a work in progress. I think going in, we kind of thought, T.Y. Hilton, he's pretty inconsistent. Reggie Wayne coming back from an injury. Dwayne Allen, one of his better receiving options, has been hurt, and he's still putting up these numbers. It's a credit to him and to that team and just how valuable he is actually to that team, and he's probably been that valuable to your fantasy team this year too.
All right, Blister, how about you? Who's your MVP?
Well, the one guy that I have on many of my teams that I honestly think the only reason I'm doing well in some of those leagues is Antonio Brown, the #1 ranked wide receiver in PPR. He's holding on to a slim lead. I think Demaryius Thomas has been closing the gap steadily after about the first few weeks where Demaryius got off to a slow start. But he's had 135 targets, 96 receptions, just under 1,258 yards, 11 touchdowns. So he's leading the fantasy points in PPR, 289.1. He's got about a 16-point gap from second place Demaryius. But, I mean, he's pretty good. He dropped down to 10th, and it's about a 7 points a game difference. So I like Antonio Brown, what he's done, and hopefully he can carry that forward through the playoffs and maybe do a couple titles.
And yeah, he's been huge, and you got him for decent value too. So that's the nice thing too. You love when that happens. Yeah. And the guy that I got at decent value, and we could have had in the high stakes Blister. And I know this is an easy one to put in there, and as a Cowboys fan, yada yada. But DeMarco Murray is going to be my MVP of the year. He stayed healthy, which makes him hugely valuable. But then also at the same point, the Cowboys are actually running the football, and I think that system now, and that the fact that they're running the football, and Tony Romo's not throwing the football 55 times a game, has really attributed to a lot of their success over the course of the year. When you look as far as an MVP of your fantasy team goes, it's consistency that you're looking for. He has 3 games in PPR format that are under 20 points, and one of those is at 19 points. He is consistently scoring, 20-plus points per game, and when you can count on that, that gives you the ability to be able to stream quarterbacks and stream tight ends and have guys like I have in a couple of leagues, DeMarco and Le'Veon Bell as your running backs, and that, I mean, it's huge, right? So to me, DeMarco Murray, my MVP. I know it's too easy, but
some of all these, I mean, it's easy just to look at the fantasy point, and but that's why they're MVPs. They're scoring, and I
Yeah.
don't think anyone could argue against any. Le'Veon Bell's another guy that I thought about
Right.
putting up there
Matt
too.
Matt Forte in PPR. Come on.
PPR leagues, those guys, we saw it last week even with Le'Veon Bell. Like the dude had over like 100 receiving yards. They put up huge points, and that's why you can lean on these guys. And there's nothing wrong to me with naming them an MVP.
Yeah.
They've earned it. I mean, with their production.
I just thought I'd hear about it because I picked the Cowboys running back. But
We'll see a hard time.
yeah, I'm sure I'll hear about it. All right, and I'm sure
He's
hear.
Gonna get hurt. He'll get hurt this week. So.
Yeah, don't say that. Don't say that in many levels. Don't say that. Okay, guys, let's move on to segment number 5. Segment number 5 is called "This Is the Man." So, in This Is the Man, we pit expert versus expert in positional battles. We don't look at the traditional, who's going to be the top quarterback this week. We take a look at some of those deep plays where you're looking at wide receiver 3s, and if you're streaming quarterbacks, or do you take the waiver wire pickup over the guy that is supposed to be doing all right? So we take a look at tough positional battles here, and we pit the experts against each other week after week. So heading into week 13 last week, we'll just do a quick recap. Slim was winning. It was 45-44 into week 13. So let's take a look. Both guys took Zach Mettenberger over Joe Flacco. Flacco had a great week, so that no points. Oh, I don't know why I have you guys scoring points. I have to adjust my totals. Then we look at the running back position. Both guys took Alfie Morris over Latavius Murray. So we had injuries, so that's allowed a little bit of a MJD sighting this week with Oakland. Not really.
Yeah.
Didn't get to watch anything.
This week?
Well, the last week, didn't he? I think he touched the ball 10 times or something.
Yeah, got him. Yeah, they get a lot.
Anyway, so they're gonna score a point there. I'm gonna make a quick adjustment here because I see that I have the points wrong. But anyways, we move on to the running back, or we keep moving into the running back position. We take a look at Gio Bernard or that's 49. I did that. There we go. Gio Bernard or LeGarrette Blount. Blunt probably is appropriate for him. There's a barn burner here, Blister, but you score a point at 5.8 in standard versus Gio's 5.33 or 5.3. So Blister scores a point there at the receiver position. Slim takes Julio Jones. Blister took Jarvis Landry. Julio had a great day, did what we were expecting of him all season long, scoring over 25 points. So Slim scores a point there. Both guys take Kenny Stills over Charles Johnson. Kenny Stills a huge day too, so they score points there. Both guys take Antonio Gates over Timothy Wright. We score points there. We were split at the flex position. Blister takes Delaney Walker, 0.6. And Slim takes Vincent Jackson. V-Jack scores a 2.4, so Slim gets a point there. And then finally at the DST, both guys took the Bills over the Lions and scored some good points there as well. I had the Vikings on my bench in 2 leagues, just saying. So anyway, Slim scores 6, Blister scores 5. The totals after week 13, Slim is up by 2, 51-49 heading into week 14. So, week 14, here we go. Blister, you get to start again because you're losing.
Alrighty.
So, Blister, we're taking a look at Big Ben at Cincinnati or Colin Kaepernick at Oakland.
Well, geez, Cap coming off a big 4-point effort last week. Oakland's a good team to fix that up. I'm going to go with Big Ben, though. I have a little more trust in his receiving core. So I'm taking Big Ben.
Big Ben. How about you, Slim? Who are you taking?
I'm going Roethlisberger as well. I don't trust that Niners offense at all, especially in the passing side. So, yeah, I got to go with Roethlisberger.
I don't know what I just did there, but that's all right. We can all see it. All right, running back position, Slim going to you. Lamar Miller hosting the Baltimore Ravens, or Jonathan Stewart, who had a good week at New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm really torn here. Lamar Miller's been running the ball actually not too bad, but he just doesn't get enough touches to make him, an elite running back option or even more than an RB2. And Jonathan Stewart, there's a chance that D'Angelo Williams still could play, so it's really up in the air. If D'Angelo Williams plays, then who knows what that does. But I'm going to go with Stewart. I'll roll the dice. I think that there's a chance, he has a big game against the Saints, sometimes porous run D, so let's hope that he does it again.
So you're saying there's a chance. All right, Blister, how about you? Who are you taking, Miller or Jonathan Stewart?
I hate Carolina running backs, so I'll go with Lamar Miller.
I don't blame you. Blister. All right, Blister, staying with you. We're going to take a look at one other running back pair. We're looking at Marion Grice, as we mentioned earlier, or Carlos Hyde.
Well, that's another tough call, but I think I'm going to go with the rookie Grice here. I guess they're both rookies, but I just think that if Ellington's out, does start. I know he'll probably share carries with Stephan Taylor, but you don't know what the San Fran offense is going to do, and Hyde, unfortunately, doesn't get used as much as I'd like to see him get used, so we'll try some Grice.
Okay, and Slim, I wasn't trying to have you with these 49ers, but it's just the way it kind of worked out because I wanted to mention some names that we came up in the waiver wire. So who are you taking, Grice or Hyde?
Well, like Blister said, I don't know. This, to me, all depends on if Ellington plays or not, and we don't know that yet. I'm going to assume that he's going to play, whether that's stupid or not. If that's the case, then I've got to go with Hyde, so I'm going to take Hyde.
All right, there we go. Wide receiver Slim going back or staying with you. Marquez Lee hosting the Houston Texans or Eric Decker at Minnesota.
No, this is easy. It's Lee because he's going to catch more than one pass. So unless that one pass for Decker's 40-yard touchdown, then Lee should outscore him pretty easy.
All right, Blister, how about you, Lee or Decker?
I'm going to go with Lee, too. At least we know in Houston the sun try to be shining. It should be warm up in Minnesota here. It could be nasty.
All right. Well, and I like to do those types of matchups because Decker, you drafted as, your wide receiver 2, maybe a low-end 1, and then all of a sudden you're going to pick a guy up on the waivers and you're going to sit that guy you spent all your money on. So that's what I always like, that kind of interesting call. All right, Blister, back to you, or staying with you, Charles Johnson hosting the Jets or Stedman Bailey at Washington.
Interesting, hey? A couple of waiver wire targets.
That's why I did it.
You know what? This week I'm going to go with Stedman Bailey.
All right. I thought this might help guys figure out who they're going to take in the waiver wire. Slim, how about you, Bailey or Johnson?
I like Bailey too. I just think he's going to get more targets than Charles Johnson, so I got to roll with that and hope he does something with him.
And maybe Oprah will be in the stands. Oh, sorry, wrong Stedman. I apologize.
Very wrong.
We have one more wide receiver pairing to go, Slim. It's to you, Dante Moncrief at the Cleveland Browns or Julian Edelman at the San Diego Chargers.
Well, I'm going to keep rolling Edelman. I realize Moncrief had a big game. To me, that's inconsistent, though. You can't rely on that again, and I'm going to take the more reliable option in Edelman.
All right, and then Blister, who are you taking, Moncrief or Edelman?
Yeah, I agree. I was looking at Moncrief. He only had like 3 catches all the way in for 100 and some yards and 2 touchdowns. That kind of production you can't have every week. And Edelman will probably get 10 or 15 targets, and he might only turn him into 70 yards, but there might be more than enough to beat Moncrief this week.
Okay, and I put that on there just to prove don't be cute. Just because he had a nice game last week doesn't mean you can count on him, especially in the playoffs.
Don't chase him.
That's right. All right, Blister, staying with you and going to the tight end position, take a look at Jordan Reed, who is hosting the St. Louis Rams, or Kyle Rudolph, who is hosting the Jets.
I'm going to go with Jordan Reed. He just had way more looks last week, and, with the young McCoy at quarterback, that could if he might have a security blanket there in Reed. And I know Teddy Bridgewater is not an old veteran by any means, but Kyle Rudolph hasn't been getting the targets yet, so I'm going to go with Reed. All
right, Slim, how about you, Reed or Rudolph?
Exactly the same things that Blister said. I'm going Reed.
Love fest. For episode 100, it couldn't be anything else but the love fest.
I love you, man.
All right, at the flex position, let's I thought this was an
I'm
interesting
sure this
call.
would be different.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
So Slim, this is you. Andre Johnson at Jacksonville or Roy Halou hosting the Rams.
Oh, I'm going to go with Andre Johnson. It is against Jacksonville. Who knows what they'll do? DeAndre Hopkins had a big game, but Andre Johnson still gets his targets, and he's going to catch a few passes. And Roy Halou, I have no idea what he's going to do against this pretty dominant-looking Rams defense the last few weeks.
All right, and Blister, how about you? Are you taking Halou or are you taking Andre
I'm gonna go with
Johnson?
Andre as well. Yeah, Slim's right. He gets a ton of targets still. Like since week 6, he's had less than 10 3 times, but 2 of them were 9. So I mean, he's really getting at least 9 or 10 targets probably on average per game. So you never know. Again, like with Hulu.
Okay. And I put that out there just because actually I thought you guys might mention him in the waiver wire pickup. As in PPR format. Well, hold on. I was trying to get the PPR. It didn't come up in standard. He's a 26th running back in standard. I don't know why I can't get the PPR to come up on the list here, but he's 26th in standard scoring. It must be in PPR. There's no way that's in standard. But anyways, I just thought it'd be interesting. I thought you guys might actually bring him up in the waiver wire this week. So, all right. So both of you are taking Andre Johnson. So now we have the DST. Blister, staying with you. Is it the Chiefs at Arizona or is it Arizona at the Chiefs? Or yeah.
I will take the Cardinals at home. They're slightly higher scoring than the Chiefs. I don't know. They got Jamal Charles, but after that they can't throw it more than 7 or 8 yards. So that should help the Arizona is a weaker pass defense team. They're tough against the run. So see what happens there.
All right, Slim, who are you taking?
I'm going to go with the Cardinals too. I think this is actually really close, but like Blister said, I just feel like the Cardinals have a better chance of actually making scoring plays, whether it be interceptions or even pick sixes or things like that.
Okay. So this is the man. Let's quickly recap week 14 and their picks. Both guys are taking Big Ben over Cap. Blister's taking Lamar Miller and Slim is taking Jonathan Stewart. Blister's taking Marion Grice and Slim is taking Carlos Hyde. Both guys are taking Marquez Lee over Eric Decker. Both of them are taking Stedman Bailey over Charles Johnson. Both of them are taking Julian Edelman over Dante Moncrief. They both got Jordan Reed over Kyle Rudolph. They're both taking Andre Johnson over Roy Halou. And they're both going to take the Cardinals D over the Chiefs D. All right. So we've been on the air for, seems like forever, and that's all right by me.
2 pods.
Extra work to do. Anyways, guys, that was episode 100. It was actually interesting to listen to the first couple of pods at the sign-off, and I was working on how to sign off, and I was playing Springtime in the Rockies, but I would never say, I'll see you in springtime. I wouldn't say it, so it was just kind of weird how it came in. Just note to self and note to everybody else, the reason why Springtime in the Rockies is played is because it was sung by one Mr. Slim Whitman, who was the original picture for Slim on the original Google site for the Fantasy Football Auction website. So I was looking for pictures of Slim. Slim Whitman came up. It was a cheesy cowboy-looking country singer. Little did I know that he was he had some fame in the old days when it came to country singing. So we played that. And in the time that we've been on the pod, guys, I mean, I don't know, it might have been 50 episodes ago, but he passed.
He did, yeah. We had a tribute
now it's
to him.
an homage.
Yeah. So now we'll see when it's Springtime in the Rockies is, it's all that put together. Slim Whitman, whether he knew it or not, was a big part of our fantasy football podcast, and that's important to us.
We owe him a lot.
Yeah, we use his likeness. We use his hopefully uncopyrighted song to sign off our podcast.
Lawsuit.
I don't know.
Don't tell anybody. Of course we have copyrights to to that. I mean, talk to his people.
Why wouldn't we?
Why wouldn't we? Okay, so that's it, guys. That's episode 100. So Blister doesn't want me to announce this anymore. So if anyone is still listening to this pod, please give us some feedback as to whether or not I still announce what episode number it is. We'll do it either way. Don't be afraid to comment on the iTunes and get that going because we haven't had comments in a while. Like us there as well to help move us up in the ranks. 180,000 plus downloads in the last year, guys, and going strong. So I guess the next big anniversary is when we top 1 million downloads.
That's right.
Ooh,
So 5 or 6 years from now.
This time next year.
How about this time next year, hopefully. So, and on that note, at this time next year, hopefully, we're looking at some moves on the website, a new format to the website. We're looking at building some apps. I got some stuff out there as far as in-draft auction apps. So we've got a lot of things as we move forward. The auctioneer is forever going to improve. It did originally from Blister's terrible first picture, which was a movie poster for the movie Mr. Blister, all the way through to now. All of a sudden, who knows? Maybe we have an app on iTunes.
Maybe we'll have bobbleheads. You never know. Shit happen.
We're gonna get bobbleheads now. You said that.
That is wicked. I want it on the camera too, right? So that it's just like all those other talk radios. Yes, for sure. And I'm thinking about getting this going a little bit more like old school, like the morning zoo. I want to get the gong, and I want to get those types of things going. I was just watching an old skit of Jimmy Fallon and Ben Affleck when they were like doing morning zoo type radio guys, and they have all these different voices to pretend that they have a whole crew with them. It's pretty funny, and they both had the same traffic announcer, Andrea, and then they got mad at each other because it was the same person. I don't know. It's good. It was on last week. It was pretty funny. Anyways, guys, that's episode 100, and I'm going to do it just for old time's sake. Anything else you guys want to add before we sign off?
I'll add one thing. I'm down to one team in a Survivor League. I need 50 points. This is my lineup, I think. Stafford, Lacey, Jordy Nelson, Antonio Gates, and Connor Barth. How do you fancy my chances?
Well, you saved Eddie Lacy and Jordy Nelson till now. They probably score 50 themselves.
I hope so. Because they play, Atlanta this week in Green Bay. I hope they go off.
Beauty. So anything you want to add to the end of episode 100?
Just want to say a big thank you to the fans and guys that listen and enjoy auction drafts. We're 3 guys that just like doing it. That's why we got into it. It's because of you guys, though, that keep it going and make it, worthwhile to do it and fun to do it. So, keep auction drafting and let us know how things go, and keep striking up conversations with us on Twitter and emails and stuff like that. And we love to hear what you guys are up to.
Yeah, and then that's just what I want to do to sign off too. I just wanted to thank everybody for all their support out there. It's been a long ride up to this point, but we've got a nice little fan base going. Guys who really like to interact with us, let us know how their teams are going, ask us week in, week out about lineup situations and those types of things. Inside jokes rolling now, joining us in fan leagues, all those types of things. So I just want to thank everybody who listens week in and week out, all 180,000 of you over the last year. And hopefully this just gets bigger and better as we go along. Don't be afraid to keep us as your secret weapon. And we just hope to infiltrate a few more leagues to be the secret weapon for more and more auction leagues. So on that note, guys, I don't know. I'm going to be in the big house later on this week, but Slim, I won't see you there. But everybody else, I'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.